Take a look at this picture. What's the very first feeling you get? Chills? A sudden sense of fear? Or just a weird, hard to explain creepiness? That feeling is what people call the uncanny valley. Maybe you've heard of it. Maybe you haven't. Simply put, the uncanny valley is a psychology theory that explains why we feel uncomfortable when we see things that look almost human, but not quite. You can imagine it as a curve. The more human-like something looks, the more we tend to like it. But when it becomes too human-like, yet somehow off, our sense of liking it suddenly drops sharply, creating a big dip. That's the uncanny valley. For example, those cartoony dolls. We know they're not real people, so we actually think they're cute. But if a doll is made too realistic, like this kind, I personally get goosebumps just looking at it. Especially the eyes. There's something off about them. You can't quite put it into words. You just feel uncomfortable. Of course, not everyone feels that way. These toys still sell, so clearly some people aren't scared at all. But it's exactly because of that uneasy feeling that dolls have become regulars in horror movies. Today, though, we're not just talking about what the uncanny valley is, because plenty of people have already explained that. We're going a bit deeper. Why are we afraid of things that are almost human? Which string in our brain is being plucked? 1. Mate selection theory. The first theory is mate selection theory. It says our fear comes from evolutionary instincts. Our brain automatically filters out those who look unhealthy or unfit for reproduction. For example, distorted faces, strange skin, stiff, unnatural expressions. It sounds reasonable. We tend to feel more positive toward attractive people, not only because of culture, but also because of biology. But I don't really buy this theory completely. We're not scared of creepy dolls because we don't want to have kids with them. And often, even if we don't find someone attractive, we don't feel afraid of them. So this explanation doesn't quite work. 2. Religion, folklore and human-like demons. Another angle comes from religion and folklore. In lots of myths and religious stories, there are countless creatures that are human-like but slightly wrong. For example, humanoid demons in the Bible, the golem in Jewish folklore, a man made of clay, or Wendigo in Algonquin culture in North America. Just seeing them once is enough to make your skin crawl. Take the golem. It looks like a giant human figure, but more like a blown-up corpse with no soul. Demons, meanwhile, have human shapes, mixed with inhuman traits. Horns, twisted faces, like an anime character who wandered into a horror movie. Wendigo is even more disturbing. As described by scholar Basil Johnston, it's so thin it looks like a skeleton, with deep eye sockets, its whole body like an empty shell, as if its soul had long been sucked out. All these human-shaped monsters share a common trait. They look like people, but drained and soulless, like a copy of a human being, missing something that makes a person truly alive. As if someone copied the body, but forgot to install the heart. And this idea of soullessness often makes us think of robots or dolls too. Things that look human, but are completely artificial. I'll temporarily call this the religious theory. It says our fear of the uncanny valley comes from a deep, culturally and religiously rooted fear. Fear of beings that look like us but lack a soul. like fallen angels, demons, puppets, effigies, human-shaped spirits. They look human, but they're missing the core thing that makes humans truly human. As for me, just like with the other theories, I don't completely deny it. It's not that I reject it just because it's related to religion. It's more that, if simply not having a soul were enough to make us instinctively terrified, the logic still feels a bit weak. Even so, it does offer a very interesting angle. Let's keep going. 3. Predator theory and other humans. There are some theories that sound even more chilling. For example, the predator theory. It suggests that our ancestors might really have encountered some kind of humanoid predator, a creature that looked like us but hunted humans. This ties into stories about giants, demons, mysterious creatures, monsters living underground. It's somewhat similar to the religious theory. But there's also another idea called the mimic theory, which talks about beings that deliberately imitate humans to get close to prey. The predator theory, however, talks about creatures that naturally looked human-like, not ones that were trying to disguise themselves. People who love these ideas often say, there are so many cultures around the world with stories about human-like beings. There must be some truth to it. Personally, I'm not a fan of that reasoning, because today we also create tons of new monsters, spread across movies, stories, and the internet. Take a creature like the rake. Some people genuinely believe it's real, even though it started as a made-up story on an online forum. That said, we do have evidence that our ancestors once shared the world with other human-like species, like Neanderthals and other archaic humans. From there comes another theory. Let's call it the other human species theory. It says our fear of the uncanny valley comes from ancient instincts of caution toward rivals who looked human but not quite like us. This theory isn't bad. Honestly, some reconstructions of ancient human faces can look a bit eerie. But for me personally, I don't find them that terrifying. Plus, if we were truly that scared of them, why do I still have Neanderthal DNA in my genes? Our ancestors even interbred with them. And many modern uncanny valley characters don't really look like these ancient humans anyway. 4. Disease theory. Next is the disease theory. This one says that our fear of things that look human but not fully human comes from a very ancient instinct. Our brain automatically avoids corpses and the very ill. Think about it. Many characters in the uncanny valley, human-like dolls, humanoid robots, mannequins, move stiffly and unnaturally, with lifeless faces, looking a lot like the seriously ill or the dead. The theory says our ancestors were extremely sensitive to such visual cues, so our brains still keep this avoidance mechanism. Even if we're just looking at robots, CGI, or dolls now, that ancient alert system still fires. I think this theory explains a lot of cases quite well. For example, in Dexter, the show sometimes called Bloodthirsty Forensic in translation, they used a fake head as a prop. Even though it's fake, it still feels creepy, because it was made to look like a severed head, a corpse. That fits the disease theory very well. Or those faces with thin, stretched skin over the skull, bulging eyes, Or those illustrations and sketches of killers that look pale and corpse-like, with dark lips and deep eye sockets. All of that screams illness or death. You might be thinking, so that's it, mystery solved. But I still have to say, I don't fully agree with this one either. Yes, I've said that about every theory so far. But this time I mean it more seriously. The disease theory really is the most convincing overall. But it still isn't perfect. Because there are examples of the uncanny valley that just don't fit into this framework. Like CGI animation and deep fake images. Look at these kinds of pictures. Some people just find them a bit weird. Not that scary. But others think they're downright unsettling. Most people can still feel that something is wrong with them. The thing is, they don't creep us out because they look sick or dead. So what exactly is going wrong? 5. Mimic theory. Beings that pretend to be human. There's a speculative idea about a fictional kind of creature called a humanoid mimic system, or human-like predator. It's imagined as a mammal that evolved to strongly prefer human flesh, even relying entirely on it to survive. The story goes that this creature appeared in Africa while humans were evolving to hunt humans. It developed a whole toolkit: a long, slender body, long, thin limbs, the ability to run very fast, up to 50 kilometers per hour, soft feet to sneak up silently on prey, and the eeriest part, the face, designed to imitate the human face. You might say, come on, that looks obviously fake. No eyebrows, ghost white skin, eyes weirdly far apart. Who's gonna fall for that? It's exactly this state of being, almost human but clearly not, that strikes at our deepest fear. It doesn't need to truly fool you into thinking it's human. It just needs that brief moment where you feel confused and uneasy. And that's when it attacks. Of course, this creature doesn't actually exist. It's just a fictional concept. But it's a perfect illustration of the mimic theory. This theory is different from the predator theory I mentioned. Predator theory talks about human-like species that resemble us because they share a common ancestor, like Neanderthals or Homo erectus. Mimic theory says these beings deliberately evolved to look like humans, with the specific goal of hunting us. It's like a more advanced form of camouflage. They play the role of humans, just with terrible acting. Mimic theory usually comes in two versions. Extremely ancient times, when we were still primitive mammals. Maybe there was a natural enemy that looked somewhat like us, to get close enough to eat us. More recent in human history, there may have been hunters wearing human skin. Maybe another human group, a human-like species, or beings we now imagine as aliens or shapeshifters. Maybe those experiences of being mimicked got etched into our genes, making us instinctively wary of anything that looks just barely human. But honestly, this theory doesn't have much solid evidence. So far, we haven't found any animal that imitates humans in such a bizarre way. And those videos and stories online are mostly fake. 6. What really scares me? One late night, I seriously asked myself, why am I actually scared of the uncanny valley feeling? When I stared at one of those photos over and over, I suddenly realized what disturbed me was not that it looked like a corpse. Not that it lacked a soul. And definitely not that I wouldn't want to mate with it. It was this. It looked like it was pretending to be human. That moment of wrongness broke through all my mental defenses. It didn't look like a corpse. It didn't look like disease. It didn't look like a ghost. It looked like a cheap knockoff of a human. And that is what unsettles me the most. But I'll also admit, I still don't fully understand the exact psychological mechanism behind it. On top of that, scientific research on the uncanny valley so far is still quite fuzzy. Some scientists even think the uncanny valley might not even deserve to be treated as a separate psychological mechanism. Right now, the two theories most widely accepted in mainstream science are disease-related theory and, surprisingly, mimic theory. Besides those, there are lots of folk ideas and fringe academic hypotheses. But based on most of the sources I've seen, the explanation that seems most reliable for now still leans toward the disease-related angle. Even so, we still don't have a clear, unified answer for why we feel so intensely uncomfortable in front of these beings that are almost human, but not quite. And that's exactly why I wanted to make this video, and why I find this topic both creepy and fascinating. It's a mystery that gives you goosebumps, and yet we still don't have a proper solution for it. Maybe it's precisely this sense of not being able to control or fully understand it that keeps pulling me deeper in the more I think about it. So, which theory do you find more convincing? You can tell me in the comments. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like. If you didn't, you're also welcome to come yell at me. Even a simple "get lost" in the comments, I'll gladly accept.